You can't be serious, man. You cannot be serious!
Now, look, we're doing this back in Melbourne, having been up at Airlie Beach for 5 months. Now, people ask, why do I do the podcast? Is it to remain relevant? Well, I don't do this to remain relevant. I am relevant, so it doesn't matter what people think. I just do it for this very reason. And this is, you'll see why I do this right now. Arrived back in Melbourne, and Melbourne is fast becoming a shithole. It's my hometown. I love being here and living in it. But my God, have a look at what's going on in this town under successive governments that actually don't give a stuff about how its residents are handling life. They're just pushing on because they've got cushy jobs, they get paid by the public purse, they give themselves a rise periodically, don't give a stuff. They're not accountable. Just have a look at the last government, Andrew's government, not accountable. But the reason I'm doing this is because someone drew my attention to this, a man called Mark Beattie. He said he was listening to Gary Lyon and Tim Watson's podcast called The Rabbit Hole. And he said Mike Sheehan was the guest, Mike Sheehan, who used to be on this podcast. And Mike Sheehan, among other things, said on the podcast, because I listened to it, he said he was abandoned by Don Scott and I over the Winmar saga. The chat we had about Nicky Winmar lifting his jumper out at Victoria Park 35 years ago. People say, why do you keep going on about this? Well, it is very relevant why I keep going on about this. Because if you have a look at where all this nonsense has got us to, and have a look at what's going on with the AFL before the game, you'll see that this is a fraud, a hoax. Winmar is not a fraud or a hoax, but Don Scott, who was at the game at Victoria Park with Mike Sheehan. I'm just going to go over this. This will tell you why Mike Sheehan... Now, this is what happens when you become a bit shaky and a bit disillusioned, and you're getting a bit old and your memory goes. I understand it, happens to me occasionally, but it's no good being in denial or being delusional. Now, this is what got me annoyed. This is a delusional man speaking nonsense. This is taken off Tim Watson and Gary Lyon's podcast called The Rabbit Hole. And have a listen to this, and this is what got my attention.
One with Sam and the bloke who used to be the captain of Hawthorn. Yeah. You know, the genial number 23. What happened there?
That's a good place to start.
Well, we lost $100,000.
Right.
Oh, you did.
Hey, Brooke, you're on the buttons today. Be careful what he has to say.
No, I won't say anything about Nicky Winmar. So we lost $100,000. There was a legal case. And then I quit.
Right.
And is that relationship with you and the other two recovered? You know the answer to that. You do this all the time. What? No.
Why not? You're big boys.
I didn't think you and Don had, but you and Sam haven't patched things up?
You're big boys, Mike. You got to let bygones be bygones.
I'm happy.
Yeah. You're happy what?
I'm happy.
You're happy without them in your life?
Yeah, I am actually. Yeah. Yeah. You've had a couple of dust-ups across the journey, and yours celebrated beating your career, haven't you?
Hey, we had a dust-up once, didn't we?
You and I.
We remember you wrote something about us not being able to win the 84 flag, and the first person I almost bumped into with
in 84.
No, not our dust-up. The other dust-up that you had with Donnie and Sam.
Sam, yeah.
What was that all over, though? Can you remember?
Well, I've never been I didn't want Scott on the program, right?
Right.
Now that we can and Sam came to me with the idea of there'd be Newman and Sheehan and a revolving third seat.
Right.
And he said, Don wants to do the first one, you know, he goes. And I said, okay, but not permanently. No. Anyway, Don liked it and he stayed.
Right.
So it was sort of always fermenting from there.
Right.
And then the Winmar stuff came up. It started by Scotty, and it blew up and we got sued. And then I was disappointed with the way Sam, I thought, abandoned me in the process.
Don Scott, I'm going to recap, and I'm very careful what I'm saying because I know I'm right. Don Scott he didn't say it was, he said, was it misreported about Nicky Winmar lifting his jumper? He said he was under the impression it wasn't about his skin colour, and he thought a lot of other people thought that too, and Mike Sheehan agreed. And what we were at pains to point out, I wasn't at the game, so I was just a bystander. I was listening to the conversation, throwing in a couple of questions every now and again. And Mike Sheehan said, if Nicky Winmar says it was about his skin colour, it was, and we accepted that. That's what we accepted. So we went on with the discussion, and I said everyone, most people at the ground didn't think it was about that. And then it just went on until a man who took the picture, Wayne Ludley, he lied and was dishonest about Scott, Sheehan and Newman, about us. So I said to Don Scott and Mike Sheehan, we're going to sue that man and the people and the publications who printed it and broadcast it. And Mike Sheehan said, I don't think I want to be part of that. And I said, Don, do you want to be part of this? And Don said, yes, I'm happy to be part of this. We'll sue Ludley for this and the publications that printed and broadcast it. Mike Sheehan didn't want to do that. In fact, here's a good lesson in life. When the shit hits the fan, some people run and other people stay. We stayed, Don and I, and we engaged a lawyer to sanction Ludley for slander and libel. Mike Sheehan, on the other hand, withdrew, actually gave a grovelling apology to the brothers, he called them, and then read out a feeble apology on the podcast, as that we were required to do. They said someone should read out an apology, and Don, Scott and I said, well, I'm not reading out an apology, we've done nothing wrong. So Mike Sheehan read out the apology and then withdrew and resigned from the podcast. He said on The Rabbit Hole that he'd been part of 2 podcasts with me, one with Grant Thomas, and that didn't go well, he said, and one with me and Don Scott, and that didn't go well. He said he didn't want Scott on it, and I said, why not? He said because he didn't like him. This is the man who he paid $2,000 to come on open mic. Don Scott said he wouldn't come on. He said, I'll come on if you give me $2,000. So Mike Sheehan said, this is on the podcast, that he paid him $2,000 out of his own pocket. Well, that's interesting because I've been on trying to help Mike out, my dear old friend. I've been on 3 times to open mic. Never was offered any money, just can you get into the studio? And I was engaged to go on it for a 4th time at one stage when I think I said something either about George Floyd being a piece of shit or something about the welcome to country. How has that gone overboard? So I was prepared to come into the studio at the designated time, and I said, what time do you want me in there, Mike? And Mike said, look, they've decided not to have you on. You're a bit controversial. I said, who was going to tell me that? This is about now before I was due to go on. He said, didn't they ring you? I said, no, how about you ring me, Mike? You're a big man. You can tell me. They don't want you on. I can't have you on. I said, okay. So there's Mike. As I say, step to the plate, mate. Never sell your soul. Don't be too timid in life. They call you precious. I wonder why they call you precious. Alistair Clarkson called him precious because no good having a complex. Not everyone in life loves you, mate. Let me assure you of that. So anyhow, we went on to sue Ludley, and we were fined $100,000 by McLaughlin when he was running the AFL, $100,000 for what was known as vilification, for daring to have a discussion about why Nicky Winmar lifted his jumper. And we accepted everything Winmar said, but he said the general consensus was that it wasn't quite as reported. But that is irrelevant. We accepted what Winmar said. So then we sued Ludley for his lies and his dishonesty, and we got compensated to the value of over $100,000. In fact, it was substantially more. And when it came to getting the, because Mick Sheehan went his way, we went a third, paying the $100,000. Don and I combined to pay 66% of it, and Mick Sheehan paid 33%. When the judgment was found in our favour, Mike Sheehan, he said, am I part of the payout? This is a man who wouldn't be part of the legal action. And I think I said something why this podcast is called what it is. I said, you cannot be serious. So that was Mike Sheehan. And then he lumbered me with a stray dog, a man who came into the studio and sat there and gave his 2 penneth worth, probably because the man who came in, the stray dog, gave Mike a job on Fox in the first place, and he befriended him, and I'm not sure if he was in work or not. And I befriended this man who actually turned out to be just a bit like Mick is. He turned on me. Gary Lyons said, do you get on with Don and Sam anymore on the podcast, The Rabbit Hole? And Mike said, well, I don't like Don. He said, what about Sam? He said, do you speak to him? He said, no. Well, that is a absolute blatant lie. Mick Sheehan has, since he has departed the podcast, I've spoken to him several times. He texts me about golf. He texts me about my opinion on football. He texts me several times. So I'm just saying, you can sell your soul, but never sell your integrity, mate. I notice you went to, this is the man, Gil McLaughlin, who threw 3 white guys under the bus just for his own gratification. Mick Sheehan went to his farewell dinner, McLaughlin's farewell dinner. Why would you go to a farewell dinner when the bloke threw you under the bus for no reason at all? But that's fine. Probably won't speak. I'm happy to speak to Mike Sheehan again. I was going to ring him up and say, what is all that crap? Probably because he thought we wouldn't hear it because we were up in... but anyhow, thanks to Mark Beattie for letting us know that Mike is a bit two-faced, but if that's the way you travel in life, mate, you go right ahead. Never sell your soul, mate. Step up, step to the plate, don't shrink back into the shadows. Someone will eventually like you. Probably everyone loves you. And I don't care if they don't love me, and I don't care what you think of this. They are the facts. You abandoned us. When we asked you to step to the plate to sue someone who lied about us, you withdrew. So please, Mike, shrink away, mate, if that's as good as you can get. So then, why do I do this? So I came back to this city, state, fast becoming a shithole. I've been told the protests are on the up. Every single day or every single week there's protests about climate, fossil fuels, graffiti, Palestine, the CFMEU. The city is brought to a standstill on a weekly basis over tepid, feckless people who either run the city or run the state. How about the state? It owes $200 billion. The Westgate Bridge, I've been away for 5 months. Not one thing has happened on the Westgate Bridge. Nothing has advanced. The traffic is chaotic. The potholes are a disgrace. Successive Labor governments have driven this state into the ground. This is what you notice when you come back. The AFL. Well, what about the AFL? How grovelling and how cringeworthy is it to have every start of every game have to be browbeaten by welcoming people to the country? We've got Uncle Colin, at least at the Brownlow Medal, they taped his piece. I didn't watch the Brownlow Medal, only to see what they were going to do at the start. We are sick and tired of this hoax. The welcome to country is nonsense. It's a fraud. people want to go and live in this country as one, as all Australians. And it's no good that bozo who dressed himself up in war paint and a bearskin up in Brisbane the other day saying they've been doing this for 250,000 years or 60,000, whatever he said, just a blatant, absolute lie. Ernie Dingo, I think, started doing it about 35 years ago at Anna Stepford, and said, welcome to my country, a jocular, tongue-in-cheek welcome to a jamboree he was at, and people, the activists, have run with it. It's nonsense. And then you see sometimes they rename the grounds in names that you've never heard. Now tell me this, if there was nothing here before BC, he said before Cook, if there was nothing here before colonisation, how can you rename something that wasn't even here before colonisation? How can you rename that? Because it wasn't there in the first place. It is a hoax. We're sick and tired of it. We had a plebiscite, a yes-no vote about whether we wanted to add something into the Constitution. It was resoundingly beaten. It said, no, we don't. But yet the AFL go on and on and on with it. Every start of every game is upended by activists, by people who get paid a fortune to come and pretend that this is their country. This country, before colonisation, there was nothing here. There was people here fighting amongst themselves, tribes. There was nothing here at all. This country is what it is today because people arrived here and built it, and we want to get on with our friends, our Indigenous friends. We want all to be one. We don't want to be told by some bloke who hasn't been on this planet half as long as me that welcome to what? It is, and the AFL can't help themselves. They just try and keep apologising for their own whiteness and their own insecurities, the indignity, the pretension of what they do. It ruins every sporting event. It ruins every start of every game that you played. You have to sit there and watch it, and it is nonsense. So this is how this state is going, and the AFL should be ashamed of themselves. Let me read out. Let me read out. This is what it says. I'm a member of the MCC. This is what it says. Have a listen to this, the MCC. This is what's on their website. The Melbourne Cricket Club acknowledges the Wurundjeri people of the traditional owners in whose country our office is based. We recognise and respect the cultural heritage of Aboriginal Torres Strait Islanders, peoples, and pay our respect to their elders past, present and emerging. We extend that respect to the traditional owners throughout Victoria where we work and play. Aboriginal Torres Strait Islanders people should be aware that this website contains images and names of people who have passed away. We respect everyone in this country. We respect Torres Strait Islanders. We respect Indigenous people. We respect everyone in this country. Why do we have to be told? Why do we keep dividing this country? The AFL are leading the way to divide this country. For heaven's sake, let's pretend, not even pretend, let's stop the theatrics. Let's Uncle Colin, could you just drop away, mate? Fade into the ether. You're a great man. You've lived a great life. Most of the people whinging are in the top 10% of the sports people that keep telling us we've got it good. You don't have to be black or you don't have to be a person of colour to have suffered indignity, drama, shame, emotional distress, and things that have happened to your life. Everyone suffers that on any given day, and we respect everyone that's in this country. Could we stop? And then while we're on it, this is the final thing. I get belted for saying I'm a Trump supporter. I'm telling you this now, if that stupid woman, that clueless clown of a woman, did you notice Joe Biden couldn't remember the name of the Indian Prime Minister when he was introducing him at the night in the United Nations? So Joe is in the White House. The President of the United States has no idea what it is. He's incontinent. He's on the way out. How he's alive, I don't know. They must prop him up with batteries. And Kamala Harris is the most ridiculous person running. She is supported by a dishonest mainstream media. if you've got to hear what she says about things, she's answered not one question about policy. She is a fraud, and how that, I hope, I've said this before, with a bit of luck, America will elect Kamala Harris as the president, and then you watch that country. China will become the number one currency-based country in the world. America will drop off the edge of the planet. They are overrun by illegal immigrants. Their inflation is gone. The price is up. They've got mandates for electric vehicles. They've got the greatest oil reserves in the world, America, and they don't drill for oil. Can you believe it? They are on the way out. If that woman, she is the greatest disgrace of anyone that's ever run for any party. If they don't elect Donald Trump, and how people with a straight face can say there's a choice between those people. I watch them on X. People in Australia say it. They don't pay attention. They're just airheads. So there's some comments coming back after 5 months from being away up in the great area. Why people say, why don't you go and live there? I could go and live there, but I don't. I like it here in Melbourne, and I like it here in Victoria. But someday the wheel will turn and this will get back to a great state that it was. But at the minute it is fast becoming a shithole.